It's already been a season of drama. From funny cars to dragsters and the popular altereds, doing battle in the fastest alcohol-fueled class in the sport. At the East Coast Nationals in Sydney, one of Australia's most famous drag racing families secured an emotional victory. When they crossed the Nullarbor, 18-time national champion Gary Phillips turned on a masterclass. After early round losses in the first two events, Phillips stormed back to his best with a win. Can he do it again? In his way stared the nation's best pro-alcohol teams and drivers. Current series leader John Cannulli is the quiet achiever, flying under the radar as he chases his first win of the season. Welcome to the Perth Motorplex on Australia's West Coast. This is 400 Thunder. We are set for a start with qualifying session number 1 for Pro Alcohol about to head your way, and we have got fantastic conditions here at the Perth Motorplex this afternoon. Absolutely perfect. The sun is shining, very little cloud in the sky, and very, very little water in the air. That's very good for making horsepower. Very good conditions. I'd expect to see some quick runs, maybe not in this session, but certainly later on. Big moment for Steve Reid, gets way over near the wall. That's not where you want to be. Adam Marchant goes through, nice run for him. A 5.61 in that dragster. That is really getting towards the pointy end of the field as far as what dragsters are doing these days. Steve Reid, a non-representative 6.35. Gary Phillips now, the man, the legend. There is not much in this sport that this guy has not done, and he will be taking on Aaron Deary in this round of qualifying, the JPP dragster, also racing for Kendall Oil. So battle of the oil companies here, and problems for Phillips. Smokes the tyres right out of the gate, and great run for Aaron Deary. A 5.67, dips down into the 5.60s. The dragsters certainly seem to have a handle on this racetrack today. And Rob Ambrosi, another of these big horsepower funny cars, one of the East Coast invaders coming over from the East Coast to take on Perth's best, and he's taking on Craig Glasby. Very unusual burnout there for Craig Glasby. Didn't even turn the tyres, just kind of hooked up like a dry hop from the 70s. But Rob Ambrosi really been getting a handle on this car. Got a lot of help from James Rowland, and we're really starting to see the fruits of his labour. After all the time, money and effort that he's put into it, it is really starting to come to a head. Smoking the tyres again for Craig Glasby off the line. And Rob Ambrosi straight to the top of the tree. A 5.57 at over 412 kilometres per hour. He's got some problems here, though. He needs to try and pull this up. He's locked up the rears. He slides it around the corner. He'd look more at home on the speedway track up the road.
Well, that's the first time ever in my whole life to actually qualify number 1. To run a 57, for me, that's top qualifying for the field, and actually that's my personal PB. So I'm stoked. I'm actually still in shock, and I can't believe it.
Rob Ambrosi is certainly happy, and he will lead the charge into the second round of qualifying here in Perth for the West Coast Nitro event. And Gary Phillips had problems in the first round, only a 16-second pass on the boards for him. He'll be looking to improve in a big way in this session. This is going to be a good one because we've got this cool night air that's come in here in Perth. The breeze comes straight off the ocean. It's very, very good conditions for racing. Big horsepower. These crews will be throwing absolutely everything at this racetrack. Now, Aaron Deary leading the way for the dragsters alongside Adam Marchant this weekend. Flying the flag for the long skinny brigade, but there are a gaggle of funny cars here looking to knock them off. And one of them is Gary Phillips. He's a reigning national champion racing for Lucas Oils on the far side of the racetrack. The visor comes down for Deary. We're set for a start. Well, problems for Deary. He rolls the beams there. He's out in front, but he's getting monstered by this funny car. And wow, that is a huge runner, 5.37. Oh, that is massive. The first sub 5.4 second run that we have ever seen in this country. Gary Phillips has been knocking on the door of it for a couple of years now, and they've finally got it, a 5.37. Incredible effort there for the Lucas Oils team. Picture perfect conditions here, and Gary Phillips, with the experience that he's got, he used it to his advantage. You can see the shift light lighting up the inside of that car right in Gary's face. He nailed his shift points, and a 5.37. I tip my hat to them. Congratulations to Gary, Debbie, Shane, the whole Lucas Oil team. Incredible effort.
It was fantastic. I mean, we went up there trying for the throat because there's so many people that, well, 3 or 4 cars that had the capabilities to do it, but it's only the first car that does it that gets recognised for doing it. So for Lucas Oil Products, 19 years of ultimate support, it's just fantastic.
It's just fantastic. After 40-odd years of racing, Gary Phillips and Debbie Phillips and the whole team still get so excited when they're breaking barriers and knocking down milestones. Congratulations to them. Steve Reed on the far side of the racetrack won the early round of the championship in Sydney at the East Coast Nationals, but has been struggling over here in Perth just a little bit. He's taking on Adam Marchant in the dragster here. You'd have to think Steve Reed needs a good run. He needs a confidence builder here to get one on the board and just build on that as the weekend goes on. It's been a bit of a struggle so far for him. Big wheel stand off the start line for Adam Marchant. He's out in front. The dragster will cross first, but the funny car, good run for him, 5:59. 5:57 for the dragster as well. Adam Marchant, good job for those guys, but there's a lot of smoke inside that cockpit for Steve Reed. You can see the hatch just popping open, a lot of smoke coming out. That's not good in an alcohol-powered car. I dare say they've probably got a little bit of work to do before coming back for that third round of qualifying. Next up, it's Rob Ambrosi, who was our provisional #1 qualifier in the Ausfield Oils car. He's taking on the Crossroad Motorsport car of John Canulli. There is his wife, Kirsten, on screen, always alongside him when he's racing. The RPMs come up, set for a start. Good launch for Rob Ambrosi, very sharp on the tree. But the big Crossroads car comes around the outside and a good run, a 5.505. Not quite in the realms of what we saw from Gary Phillips earlier on in this session, but certainly a very good run nonetheless. 5.58 for Rob Ambrosi does not improve on his previous 5.57, but still, he is consistent and he is quick, and that's what you need to win in pro alcohol these days. Third round of qualifying now. Aaron Deary on the start line leaves the line very, very nicely. A lot of flex in that Kendall Oil dragster and a good run for him. Very, very nice run. In fact, a 5.64. It's not as quick as what we've seen from him earlier on in the weekend, but still a very, very nice pass. Consistent heading into eliminations race day tomorrow. Adam Marchant now in the high revving dragster, taking on the Crossroads Motorsport car of John Canulli. Now, Canulli has a best run on the boards of a 5.50 coming into this third qualifying session. He wants to improve on that. We've already seen 5.30s out of Gary Phillips, and John Canulli, he's hungry for it. He won't be the first to do it if he can, but still, a 5.30 is nothing to sneeze at, and he gets it. A 5.37 with a 9. Great conditions here this weekend, and these teams are taking full advantage. A 5.37 with a 9, 429.59 kilometres per hour. Moves him into second in the qualifying list.
Yeah, well, we had some dramas for the first and second qualifier, but we tweaked it a little bit more. We've seen him run a 37, so we tweaked it, and yeah, it went a 37 as well.
So Gary Phillips rolls up to the line. He's already got that 5.3 second run under his belt, and I would be expecting to see this team throw everything, including the kitchen sink, including the tapware, including the plumbing at this racetrack, because it can hold it. Great conditions. He's up against Rob Ambrosi in this final run. Ambrosi picks up the front wheels ever so slightly, kicks him out of the groove, and he does it. He improves, a 5.36. That is the quickest run we have ever seen from a pro alcohol car in this country, the quickest run we've ever seen from a pro alcohol funny car, and man, oh man, Gary Phillips has got this thing on rails this weekend. Let's have a look at the replay. It was far from perfect. It drove a little bit over towards the centre line, but not a lot of tyre shake, and that's the important thing. It means the tyre gets a clean transition to the racetrack. They can put all the horsepower down to the ground, and Phillips is your #1 qualifier.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, the weather's absolutely fantastic. It's go fast. Hang on.
So your final qualifying list looks like this. Gary Phillips with that 5.36, a record-breaking performance. John Canulli in there in second. Adam Marchant, Rob Ambrosi in the top half of the field as well. Steve Reed, Aaron Deary, Craig Glasby a long way down the list, and Taylor rounding out the 8. The West Coast Nitro event hits the Perth Motorplex, and we are set for a start in the first round of eliminations. I'm not sure what happened there for Steve Reed, but went to try to do the burnout. Something came off the car, and I think the car may have gone silent. We'll come back to that in a second. Here are your matchups for the first round of racing. Gary Phillips will take on Shannon Taylor, Rob Ambrosi and Steve Reed, John Cannulli to do battle with Craig Glasby, and Adam Marchant and Aaron Deary racing off in the Battle of the Dragsters. And this is heartbreaking for Steve Reed, the guy who was chasing the championship in this pro alcohol category, out in the first round of racing. Sometimes these things happen and it's just one of those things. But Rob Ambrosi, he has not put a foot wrong this weekend. He has run in the 550s all the way through qualifying. This car has been a bracket car, so consistent, and now he gets the solo pass, and how's that for a get-out-of-jail-free card? Throws everything at the racetrack, smokes the tyres, but it doesn't matter. He's on a solo pass, courtesy of that breakage for Steve Reed, and he will move on to the semi-finals here in Perth. And it is actually the first time that he will move on to the semi-finals, so this is a milestone moment for Rob Ambrose in this team. Congratulations.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's tough. I mean, these things are on the edge all the time, and it's pretty easy to step over that edge, and when you do, you either damage parts or don't make the run. So it's it's tough sometimes, but boy, there's some pretty big highs as well.
Well, trying to put a positive spin on it. Good luck to Steve Reed for the rest of the championship, but this is going to put a big dent in it for sure. Now we move on to what is probably the most lopsided matchup of the first round of racing. It is Gary Phillips in that Goliath of a car. 530s this car has been running in qualifying, and he has to take on Shannon Taylor here in the little altered, the only altered that we've got in the field in this event. And as you can see, a very, very different body style. Essentially, the chassis is the same as what's under the funny car, but a lot less aerodynamics on board for this car. And they are a special breed altered drivers, that is certainly for sure. But Shannon Taylor, he's got a big job ahead of him here. Pulls the front wheels up. He certainly had his hands full on that run. And Gary Phillips got close to the centre line as well. 5:42. Looks like he might have wound it back a little bit for this first round of racing. Just concentrating on getting the win lights today. I don't think it's about rotating the earth for Gary. Taylor had a good run, nothing to hang his head about, but Gary Phillips, 5:42. It's pretty hard to argue with the kind of performances that those guys have been bashing out this weekend. Let's have a look at the replay. You could see the wheels were up a long, long way for the altered. Going on board with Gary Phillips, nails his shift points again. No hint of tyre shake for this car. A little bit close to the centre line, but Gary would have known exactly where that car was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean that run in the heat, the 40 to run 42 first round was sort of tiptoeing through the tulips a bit on that. So I did shut it off a little bit early, but it was actually a really good run considering how hot it was. And yeah, so we'll see what happens this time, because I'll have to be on my game with Robert. So yeah, for Lucas, we'll be trying our best.
It's fantastic. This is the second time in my life now that I've gone to the semi-finals, so I'm stoked. Look, it's going to be a good run. It's going to be a tough one against Gary. Obviously he's 37, and if he does it again, well, I'm going to try really, really hard to actually beat him. I'll do everything I can do. I'm going to throw everything at it, so we'll see how we go.
You said it's like going to school.
Well, it is. I'm going to school now. He's the teacher. I'm the student, but we'll get there one day. We'll just see how we go. I'm going to give it my utmost best.
There is certainly a lot of respect between those two racers, and particularly from Rob Ambrosi towards Gary Phillips. He's a revered figure in this pit area, and a man who has done pretty much everything there is to do in this sport. Now we move on to the all dragster battle in this first round of racing. Two local WA racers and two of the hardest hitting dragsters that we have in this category. It is Aaron Deary taking on Adam Marchant. Adam Marchant closest to screen in the predominantly black, red and blue dragster, and Deary on the far side of the racetrack in the red, white and black Kendall Oil dragster. This is going to be a good one because you've got very, very similar engine combinations, very similar chassis combinations. This one theoretically should go right down to the wire, and it's not something we see a lot of these days, two dragsters facing off, but I love it. Oh, problems for Marchant, and Deary will move on to the semi-final round, and a very, very nice run for him, a 5.70. Just winds back a little bit from the performances that we saw in qualifying, but still It's a lot hotter today, and I tell you what, these guys are really going to have to tiptoe their way down the racetrack, to quote Gary Phillips. As we have a look at the replay, looks like the front wheels might have come up and just unsettled the car a little bit for Marchant, shook the tyres. I think he might have tried to pedal it, and the pipes went quiet, and that was all she wrote. But the Kendall Oil car moves on to the semi-finals, where he will take on the winner of the John Cannulli-Craig Glasby matchup. That's going to be a good one.
Well, Dave, it wasn't too bad. Basically, we softened it right up because I know this track pretty well, and at 6 o'clock it gets a bit hot, so the track gets a little dicey, and the Marchant family, they probably got amongst it a little bit because they know I can always pull something out of my sleeve. And, you know, basically we just trundled on down the track. I knew he sort of must have had a rattle or something like that, because once I couldn't see him, I just sort of shifted gears and just got it down the other end and got the win, you know.
So we go on board now with John Cannulli. This is the moment as a funny car driver that you really cherish. The body gets lowered down around you. There is nobody else on board with that car, nothing else that anyone can do, and you're just focused on what you need to do as a driver, and he will take on Craig Glasby, who has really struggled this weekend. I don't think there is any secret about that whatsoever when you consider the performances we saw from him earlier on in this championship, running in the 5.4 second zone. At one point, this car was the quickest and fastest funny car that we had in the world. It was an incredible performance that we saw out of these guys, but they've just struggled a little bit over this event. But they've got a big ask here to take on a guy in John Cannulli, where he is running the 5.3 second zone in qualifying. Always a perennial championship contender, and Glasby, he's really going to need to pull one out of the hat here if he's got any chance whatsoever to get around Cannulli. Little bit of a wheel stand for Cannulli on the far side of the racetrack. Glasby sticks it as well, but man, a 5.47, that was always going to be hard to get around for Craig Glasby. 5.59 for the Camaro. It looks like they've sorted out whatever problems that they had in qualifying. A 5.59 is certainly a big step in the right direction for the Veeam Gyro Camaro, but the Crossroads Motorsport funny car is on a tear this weekend. They know that Gary Phillips has run a little bit quicker than them, but they know that they can stay with him, and they need to stay with him to have a hope in this championship. It is very tight at the moment in the points score, and that's another win in the bank for John Cannulli.
Yeah, it was good. We just underestimated the track. We took it easy on that one, just because it was the time of the day. It's pretty hot out there, and it still went a 5.47, so we're happy with that, and we'll hop it up for the semi-finals.
The lights go down and the racing heats up. Semi-final time here at the Perth Motorplex in the West Coast Nitro event in Pro Alcohol. Now we've got a good old-fashioned funny car versus dragster battle to kick things off. It is John Cannulli taking on Aaron Deary. John Cannulli has been absolutely on fire all weekend when it comes to his reaction times. Went 0-2-0 on the Christmas tree in the first round of racing, but I tell you what, Aaron Deary wasn't far behind. He was 0-2-5. Expect to see two really sharp reaction times here. This one is going to be super close at the top end of the racetrack, and this is what Top Alcohol is all about. Dragsters, funny cars, altereds, all in together, all on a level playing field, and I tell you what, I just can't wait to see how this one shakes out. John Cannulli fighting for a championship. Aaron Deary looking to impress in front of his home crowd. Or problems for Cannulli. He shook the tyres a little bit. I thought the dragster was going to go around him, but he saves it. A 5.55. It's not as quick as his earlier 5.47 in the first round of racing, but still 5.55 gets the win. He was 0.36 on the Christmas tree as well. Very good reaction time. Aaron Deary wasn't far behind. An 0.57 reaction time for him, but a 5.76 from the dragster was not going to get the job done. It looked like Cannulli pulled the front wheels up a long way. This is going to be the telling shot. You can actually see it. It picks it up, and when it comes down, the wheel was just turned a little bit. It moved over towards the wall, but still, Cannulli gets the win light and goes on to the final.
Yeah, it just got out, and we just overpowered the racetrack about 1.5 seconds out. It just started smoking the tyres. So we'll just back it down a little bit and see what we can take it to him for the final.
Second semi-final matchup, it is Gary Phillips, the car that has pretty much conquered everything this weekend. The first runs that we've ever seen in this country in the 5.3 second zone, and he will take on Rob Ambrosi, the giant killer this weekend. This car has been super consistent, running on a string all weekend long. But Gary Phillips, those 5.3 second performances, Rob Ambrosi is going to need to really step it up here if he has any shot whatsoever at taking down the 17-time national champion in this category, Gary Phillips, the reigning national champion as well. That's the other thing. You see the big gold number 1 on the side of that car. It's there for a reason. He is very, very good at what he does. The Rob Ambrosi, been racing Top Alcohol on and off now for probably 15 years. He's come back with a vengeance though, and he's really spent the money where he needs to spend it. He's brought on James Rowland as well as a tuning consultant for this team, and it's really starting to pay dividends. This car has not been out of the 550s all weekend long, and that is a credit to that team. Very clean off the start line on both sides of the racetrack, but the big horsepower of the Lucas Oil car really brings it home strong, and Gary Phillips will move on to the final round. 5.46 for him, 5.59 again for Rob Ambrosi. That car has had 4 or 5 runs, all within 3 or 4 hundredths of a second. It is incredibly consistent. That's an impressive performance. I don't care who you are. Great job to Rob Ambrosi, but Gary Phillips, the big horsepower of that funny car, really brought it home strong at the top end of the racetrack. 5.46. 431 kilometres per hour. We'll go on board and see just how much driving he had to do. A little bit into the steering, still nails his shift points. That's what the light on the dash indicates, and he moves on to the final.
Yeah, well, the master nearly beat himself that time because I was up there for stage for a little bit and the car crapped and I knocked the top light out. And I think I earned my paycheck that time because it was like that was a pretty good save, if I don't mind saying so myself, because it knocked the top light clean out. So the car was moving and it still ran pretty good. But hey, whatever. I mean, we'll take it. Like still a 46 doing that. I'm impressed.
Final round time now, and we talk about these two protagonists, and they keep matching up time after time. We're seeing it in final round after final round. Semi-finals all over the place. Gary Phillips and John Cannulli, these were the two guys that a lot of people had marked as your championship contenders coming into this season, and I dare say it seems to be the way that it's shaking out. The Crossroads Racing team, probably the underdogs in this battle, purely because of the experience and the calibre of performance that we've seen out of Gary Phillips. He always seems to find a way to make it work. He always finds a way to get the win. But John Cannulli, he can certainly lay down a number when he needs to. He has been a very, very strong performer in pro alcohol over the last couple of years, and I tell you what, he will be a tough one for Gary Phillips. Both teams will be bringing everything to the table here, not leaving anything to chance. And I think what you'll find is it's either going to set the world on fire and rotate the earth, or it could smoke the tyres on both sides of the racetrack. Whatever happens, it's certainly going to be exciting. Gary Phillips, he will be on the far side of the racetrack, and he will take on John Cannulli, the young gun in pro alcohol. Waiting for the cars to come into stage, probably the most tense moment of any drag race as they bring the revs up. The RPMs, they'll come up to 5,500 to 6,000 RPMs in these engines. One flash of the tree and you're Ash. And Ash it is for Gary Phillips. Smokes the tyres. I did not expect that early on in the run. And man, oh man, John Cannulli takes it a 5.47. There's a lot to be said for just getting down the racetrack, and John Cannulli takes it 5.47. Smiles all round for Kirsten Cannulli. Even Debbie Phillips is in there. It's been a great weekend for those guys. You've got to remember, 5.30s, first car in Australia that's ever gone under 5.4 seconds for the quarter mile. And Gary Phillips, congratulations to them. It's been a great weekend, but the trophy will be going home in the Crossroads Motorsport Transporter. John Cannulli, fantastic for him, fantastic for the championship, and it is really going to heat things up as we head on down the road in this 400 Thunder Championship. On board with John Cannulli, you look out the side window, you never saw Gary Phillips in that Lucas Oil car. That's because he smoked the tyres, overpowered the racetrack, and John Cannulli just gets it on down there and takes the win.
Yeah, well, the guys worked so hard all weekend. The car was fast all weekend. They've done a great job, and mate, to come out with the win, we're wrapped. So we're going to head to Easter now and stand 3, and hopefully we can keep the winning streak going.
So this is the way the series standings are after 4 rounds of the championship. John Cannulli has a commanding lead, 369 points. Gary Phillips slotting in there in second, though he will not give up easily. Steve Reed and Aaron Deary rounding out the top 4. On next week's show, we've got the high-revving, finely tuned pro bikes from the West Coast Nitro event here in Perth. Congratulations to John Cannulli. He raises that trophy high and proudly. Congratulations. It's been a fantastic event for him. For all the information regarding the 400 Thunder series, check out the website on screen there. We'll see you next time.